We want to welcome everybody into another Ask the Expert special edition of News 3 Live at 7. What's it about? Well, we read your questions, we hear them, we get your concerns, and we take them to the experts here in the state of Nevada to hopefully give you the answers that you need as we all get through this time of coronavirus. The next 30 minutes of this newscast really belong to you. So let's begin with Dr. Tiffany Tyler Garner, Director of Department of Employment, Training, and Rehabilitation. Tiffany, doctor, some employees like Chris from Las Vegas are wondering if there's a minimum amount of time you need to work to qualify for unemployment, and if so, how can workers out there receive financial help if they were employed for less than that base period required by DETR?
So yes, there is a standard for wages during a particular reporting period. Typically, we look at the 12 months preceding the claim. But the good news is for those individuals who do not currently meet that criteria, under the CARES Act, there is a provision for individuals who have worked but may not meet the wage criteria. So there will be some relief on the horizon for individuals that find themselves in that situation.
So do independent contractors or 1099 workers qualify for that help, that unemployment help?
That's another great new development. Yes, they will qualify under the CARES Act and its provisions. And it is on the horizon.
Okay, so we hope that a lot of people can take advantage of that because we know that so many of our viewers are concerned. We understand that some unemployed workers report having to fax in additional information such as pay stubs, but a lot of people don't have access to a fax machine or unable to do so. Scott from Centennial Hills asks if there is another option.
Yes, they can always mail it in. So currently our two methods are primarily fax and the other is mail. They may mail it in.
All right, and do you happen to know off the top of your head what the mailing address is for people watching? If you don't, we can go ahead and tweet that out.
We will provide that information to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Looking down the road a few weeks, Feliciano from North Las Vegas wants to know if you have claimed stimulus checks from the federal government the week that you file for unemployment, will you have to claim that stimulus check?
So I try to refrain from speaking to specific claim questions, but do want to note that we are updating the fact sheet each day with the guidance that we are receiving federally. So I'll be sure to include a response to that information based on the federal guidance that we have received.
All right, so we've received a lot of emails from viewers. Big question, when will the additional $600 from the federal stimulus bill be added to the weekly unemployment claim amounts?
That's on the horizon, and we are pleased to report that we've made significant progress towards being able to offer it.
Okay, so that's the second time, my friend, you've mentioned on the horizon. What does that mean for the person who has nothing in their bank account tonight?
That we're actively working on the implementation. You may note that over the course of this past weekend, we released a notice saying that we were working towards fast-tracking the implementation of those provisions. So we hope to be able to offer it very soon.
So on the horizon, we hope to offer it very soon. Are you willing at this point to say we're not able to service all the claims and we understand and feel your frustration for the people who are watching right now?
We're always willing to say that not only do we understand, we empathize. In many instances, our families are experiencing the same pressures as we work through ensuring that we can address every claim that has been submitted. It's important to note during this trying time that while we are experiencing a record number of submissions, that every claim will be backdated to the first date of eligibility. So no Nevadan will lose a benefit or lose the benefit of the resources when they are available. It's important to also note that while the traditional unemployment insurance process has been in place many decades, working where prior to this pandemic, the average time was 7 days, with the most extreme cases being 21. With this being an unprecedented time for us, we do see some variation in those timings, but that our commitment is to ensuring that every claim is completed. And in the case of the CARES Act, we have responded to every criteria and time frame that have been provided to us around being able to stand up those resources for Nevadans. It's important to note on the 27th that it was signed into law. On the 28th, on a Saturday, the state was provided an agreement. We signed that agreement that day. The following week on a Sunday, were provided guidance, and then within 72 hours submitted the budgetary documentation needed to begin providing the resources. So not only have we been watching and monitoring the process, we have aggressively work toward implementation, because we realize that ultimately where the rubber meets the road is making sure that folks have the resources they need to provide for their families. We don't take that lightly.
And you know, I tweeted out, before we get to another viewer question, I tweeted out that I actually watched somebody go through the process last night and this morning. So many people said the site is down. We got a communication from your office saying the site had not crashed. But then so many people sent me screenshots saying this site can't be reached. What do you say to people who say the site crashed legit on Sunday night when I was doing what I was supposed to do and it's not working?
The site has not crashed. What they're experiencing is the impact of the significant numbers of claims being attempted at the same time. So we're asking folks to consider please attempting at non-peak hours. It's important to note that yesterday there would have been a significant spike because we were maintaining the system to fast track the implementation of CARES on the previous Saturday. So likely saw a significant above average volume based on what the process has been. But I want to assure you that the system has not crashed, and want to distinguish between crashing and system delay as a result of the volume.
Well, Sherry from Henderson is wondering, how can employees who work off of tips receive financial assistance?
They are eligible for relief under the CARES Act, particularly the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program will afford some resources there.
And you mentioned the hours. Let's just really button that down. What are the best hours to call and to get through to a representative? Because so many people are also telling us they're getting busy signals, they're waiting and waiting and waiting. They can't talk to a real person.
So it's important to note that there are three things that we're asking during this unprecedented time. One, that folks apply online and use the resources online. Every resource needed to file, including establishing a YouTube channel that walks folks step by step through the claims, PIN, and registration process, as well as the unemployment insurance handbook, fact sheet, which is updated daily, as well as a step-by-step guide to some of the steps, are all online. We have found that in instances where individuals review those materials before they begin the claim process, they're much more likely to reduce the errors that are resulting in them getting a message to call in. We're also asking that folks reserve the phone lines for individuals who cannot physically file. As a part of that process, as we consider what is a non-peak hour, we have found that a significant number of individuals are attempting to call in at exactly 8 a.m. in the morning. That is not a non-peak time and not optimal if you want to get your call through. It is important to note that during this process, we have extended the hours to 8 p.m. every night and established a half day on Saturday to respond to password requests, which we had identified was another concern that folks have. If folks will consider, one, using the online system, which is open for the most part 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that folks can complete the claim process in as few as 10 minutes. And if they will reserve calls for a time when you absolutely cannot physically file because you don't have the ability to, if you will consider the other 8 hours, the other 7 hours available, that folks have seen greater success there. But we do apologize for delays and impact that folks are seeing. We could not have anticipated the magnitude of the number of claims that have been coming in. I can tell you that in a span of a week, we went from an average of about 5,000 to over 96,000 in 1 week. There was no way to forecast for that, but we've been working diligently to ensure that the system stands. So we have not had a physical crash, and adding online resources, hours, and staffing to address what we know are very real concerns for individuals attempting to access these resources.
Very real concerns. We know it's got to be terribly stressful on your side of the table as well, Doctor. We acknowledge that these are unprecedented times. Our hope is that the apologies and the promises can turn into something that puts food on tables. Thank you so much, Dr. Tyler Garner. We appreciate you. We want to remind you all to send us your questions. You can do that by
Let's talk real estate now.
A booming market with no signs of slowing. What it looked like after the coronavirus. Still ahead, we're going to look at what the Las Vegas housing market will look like or could look like after this is all passed. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our special edition of News 3 Live at 7. We're talking to doctors and lawyers and unemployment experts, all asking your questions about coronavirus and its impacts here in Southern Nevada. We're so glad to have Mary Beth Seawald, president of the Las Vegas Metro Chamber of Commerce. She interfaces with businesses all the time. We know there's going to be a major impact to businesses, already a major impact. So our first question, Mary Beth, what state and federal aid are small businesses going to get to help them get through this difficult time?
Yeah, you know, Reed, thank you, first of all, for having me on the show today, because we do talk to businesses every single day and they are pretty nervous. But I have to tell you, there are several great options for small and medium-sized businesses to get grants and loans. The SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan, also called EIDL, is a great option. Emergency Economic Injury Grants, the PPL, the Payroll Protection Program. So there are a lot of great things that are out there. You just have to know how to go about getting them. And the Chamber has been doing webinars just about every day to show people and walk them through the process of just how to do that.
We know that our reporters have benefited from sitting in on those webinars, so we thank you for organizing that. We've been able to pass that information on to our viewers. Another question we're getting a lot of, Mary Beth, is how do companies receive Paycheck Protection Program loans, and when should they apply for those?
Well, they should apply today. The Paycheck Protection Program, you apply for that one through your banker. It's a low interest loan that covers all payroll expenses for up to 8 weeks. If you keep a full-time staff employed, you get a loan of up to 8 weeks, and that 8 weeks of that payroll will be completely forgiven. So that's a great option, again, along with the EIDL and the Emergency Economic Injury Grants. Great options.
All right, so Nan sent us this question. We're asking Nan's question: can small business owners receive a disaster loan due to coronavirus?
Absolutely. You apply directly through the SBA. These grants provide an emergency advance of up to $10,000 to small businesses and also private nonprofits, but they provide those monies within 3 days of applying for the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan, again called the EIDL. Now, to access that advance, you have to first apply for that EIDL loan and then request the advance. And the advance does not need to be repaid under any circumstances, and it can also be used to keep employees on payroll, to pay for things like sick leave, to increase production costs if you have supply chain interruptions, or to pay for business obligations, fixed costs, including debts and rent and mortgage payments, for example.
All right, so such great information. And you know, you lived up north and you know north and south as far as the state of Nevada goes so well. You know that we are battle born. We have a heart for small businesses, and we're seeing on social media so many people saying support local, support small businesses. How can we further deepen that value? How can consumers support small businesses?
Well, at the Vegas Chamber, and I know at the Reno Chamber as well, we are all advocating that we support our local businesses and our small businesses as much as we can. You can order takeout from local restaurants, or you can buy supplies from your local hardware store. You can buy gift card programs. The Vegas Chamber and the Reno Chamber, as a matter of fact, have come up with a great new gift card program that we're going to be making available to folks who want to buy any kind of gift card. And then so you're infusing cash into those small businesses, and then you're also buying gifts, and we're going to be donating those to our first responders. So we're really excited about that one.
Yes, and that's a great idea. And I may have bushy hair right now, but I'm going to prepay for 2 haircuts for my barber, and I can't wait to cash in on those. Mary Beth, thank you so much for talking to us. Another expert we're just honored to ask you. And remember, our viewers, you can send us your questions by emailing coronaquestions@news3lv.com. Mary Beth Seawald, thank you so much. Las Vegas just a short time ago looked to continue a booming housing market, but for those in the process of buying or selling your home, this global pandemic could affect you. So to answer some of your real estate questions, Brenda Wynn with Berkshire Hathaway. Brenda, thank you so much. Chevelle near North Las Vegas is one of many asking this question: is this a good time or a bad time to consider purchasing a home?
You know what, it is a good time to buy a house, and here's why. You know, the interest rates are at an all-time low, and the inventory is at a moderate level. You know, prior coming into this pandemic, we had a fairly low inventory, and we were finding, you know, hard for the buyers to get their offers accepted with multiple offers. So now we're in a situation where we've got low inventory, and we also have sellers that are still in an immediate need to sell their home, and they could be worried about the short-term future and what this holds, you know, during this time. So it could be a really good opportunity for buyers.
All right, so what are the long-term effects of the Las Vegas housing market due to coronavirus? How much of a cut are we expecting to see to our values?
You know what I could see a long-term effect for realtors and the consumer on how they conduct their business going forward. I really feel that there's going to be a short-term effect in our Las Vegas market. We have a healthy real estate market that has grown strong and steady over the last few years. And as I commented earlier, we came into this pandemic with a low inventory. If you look at, what we had on the market last year, we had over 10,000 houses or properties on the market. And as of today, looking at the market, we've got about 8,200 homes, 8,200 homes listed right now. Now, we do have some owners that have taken their home temporarily off the market. I was looking earlier, there's about 270 homeowners that have taken their home temporarily off the market. So we're going to see those come back on the market. We're going to see sellers that, have been waiting for this pandemic to, come to a more comfortable level for them, and they're going to put their house on the market as well. But, overall, we've got a good, strong, healthy market. So short term, I think summer we'll start seeing things getting back to normal, as long as we can get things, back to normal.
And we hope that we can do that soon. And how will the loan process of purchasing be affected?
It's going to really slow the loan process down. I've been talking with a few of my lenders, and also I have buyers that are in contract now that are going through their loan process, and we're seeing that things have really, slowed down. So buyers need a little bit more time in these contracts. We're going to need to be writing them a little bit longer, and because we've got, your third parties, like your title companies, like your appraisers, the third parties, they have your title companies, they're working remotely. And then you've got your appraisers that have to do business a little bit differently. So overall, it's going to just take longer for the loan process to happen.
All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time, and nothing will speak like the comps, the comparables over the next couple of studies, and we're hoping that they stay even. We're just hoping we can all hold.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much from Berkshire Hathaway. We're also learning new information about the virus itself every day. Health experts weigh in on the effects of a common over-the-counter medication and if you can get the virus twice. All right, welcome back to our special edition of News 3 Live at 7. We have experts from various industries who are addressing your questions. This is your broadcast. We're taking your questions to the experts about coronavirus and how to get our way through this thing. Joining us now is Dr. Josh Luke, former CEO of what is now Encompass Health in Las Vegas. Let's get right to the questions. We only have about 4 minutes here. Jeanette from Henderson asks, how long is someone sick when they get the coronavirus?
Yeah, that's a great question, Reed, and the answers are still left out there because so many people never even show symptoms. But normally, what I'm being told, because I am a PhD, not an MD, but when I check in with the MDs, what I learn is anywhere from 7 to 20 days is kind of the normal. But again, so few people, the people that are getting tested up to date are people that they pretty much already know have it, right? Because the testing's been short. So the true answer to those who haven't been tested, in addition, we don't know, but I would assume 7 to 20 days is the norm.
7 to 20 days is a lot of days to feel sick if they do feel those symptoms. Shauna from Centennial Hills wants to know, does ibuprofen affect coronavirus symptoms and recovery time?
That is such a good question because the answer I've been told is yes. To date, the The research has shown, and there's some videos on YouTube and others about this, they call them NSAID drugs. They're non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. They're also sometimes referred to as non-opioid analgesics, and Advil and ibuprofen fall into that category. So one of the first things doctors are telling you that they do seem to know about fighting COVID-19 is to avoid the ibuprofen, the NSAIDs, and go with Tylenol if at all possible.
So avoid ibuprofen, go with Tylenol, which also, by the way, helps with a sore back and legs after hiking and hiking and hiking to try to kill the time. I know from personal experience. All right, so Carol in Las Vegas sent us an email asking, can you get COVID-19 twice? Big question.
Yeah, hey, and it's a great question because to date the research is contradictory, and it's interesting because most of the doctors say, hey, this is physically impossible to get this twice, but then there's all of these people that are having reoccurrences. So initially they were saying, hey, these were probably just false positive tests after they'd been diagnosed positive for a couple weeks. But now in South Korea and in China, it's starting to come up more. So they're still learning. I would say continue to do your research on that. But it's clear that some people aren't out of the woods even 30 days later, whether it's a reoccurrence or a false positive. They're still kind of keeping their finger on the pulse of that argument.
And I'm going to put my finger on the pause button here and just let our viewers know there's research, there's scientific evidence, and then there's everything else on the internet. And when you get on the internet, it's not always a guarantee that you're going to be getting clear information. So we have to be very careful that we're listening to vetted sources. Next question from our viewer, when is Nevada expecting the peak? Have we gotten to the peak? Are we supposed to be expecting it? And if not, how are local hospitals preparing for the peak?
Hey, that's a couple questions in one, but the good news is I'm in Southern California. I've lived in Nevada twice, but I think both California and Nevada nip this in the bud pretty quickly. That doesn't mean we can relent or we can give up. We need to stay quarantined until the end of April at the earliest. Hopefully they open society back up. It looks as if Nevada may have already peaked if California is in the next week or so, hopefully. You guys have great hospitals in Southern Nevada. When I worked out there for a year or so, I got to work alongside some of the best in the nation. I mean, Carla Perez over UHS has been out there for, I think, almost 20 years. Bob Frymuller out at Summerlin Hospital. You got Mason over at UMC. You guys are so well prepared if pandemic recurs or if it really became a bigger problem out there. So I'm really confident in the ability of the Southern Nevada hospitals to handle any pandemic. And I know the recent stats I saw in Nevada are that even going into Easter weekend, that perhaps you had enough ICU beds, you had enough vents, that there wasn't going to be the concern that there initially was going to be. So I'm really encouraged by that.
And we are encouraged as well. Please tell all of those who you talk to in the medical profession, we love them, we appreciate them. And maybe even look up our Air Force Thunderbirds who flew over all of our hospitals to give hope. We thank you for that. And we want to just let all of you know we're here. Keep sending your questions, Corona questions at news3lv.com. Look up Hope Up.